In southern Wisconsin, near Elkhorn, there's a creature that lurks around in the dark woods along Bray Road and the surrounding area with impunity. It's half man, half wolf, and 100% nightmare fuel. Because of the numerous witnesses who have claimed to see this creature, the evidence supporting the Beast of Bray Road is far greater than the evidence supporting almost any other werewolf legend. The descriptions of it vary, but the general consensus is it's 6 to 8 feet tall, very hairy with grayish-brown fur, and a muscular body. So, Jason Momoa. Its huge head has the features of a wolf with pointed ears and yellow eyes. Its hands consist of 3 long claws. It sits back on its haunches like a man squatting. For the most part, locals believe it's either a werewolf, a dogman, or a Bigfoot. Native Americans claim it's a Wendigo. While there are Native American accounts of a monster in the same area with similar characteristics of the Beast of Bray Road, the first modern reported sighting was in 1936. It started out as wildlife mutilations. The animal's guts would be found hanging out with only the heart and liver missing. Then it progressed into eating dairy cows. Wisconsin has a lot of dairy farms, so that started hitting home a little more. The cheeseheads got really cheesed. Shortly after that, folks started seeing it squatted on the side of the road, eating roadkill. Skeptics believe it's just a wolf or a bear, even though wolf and bear are not common in southern Wisconsin. It has never physically attacked anyone. However, it has been reported to act aggressively by running at folks and jumping on their cars. That's enough to make me shit my drawers. June 1936. 5 miles east of Jefferson County, Wisconsin. Mark, a night watchman for a private school just outside of Jefferson, arrived just before midnight at the school he was assigned to. He was in his mid-30s, working his job, doing his thing to support his family. In rural Jefferson, there really wasn't much to worry about as far as crime goes, save the occasional burglary or teenagers playing a prank. That'd be me. The school grounds covered a huge area, including several Native American burial mounds. It always goes back to Native American burial grounds, don't it? As the night watchman for several years, Mark knew the area well and walked the grounds every night. One night, while he was crossing a pasture, he saw a shadow move about 100 feet away. With the dark woods as a backdrop, he wasn't sure what it was, so he squinted to get a better look. He saw a hunched form on all fours, digging into a Native American burial mound. The way it was digging, it reminded him of a dog or a wolf, but this was way too massive. Was it a human? He crept a little closer for a better view. As he did, he stepped on a branch and it snapped. The creature stopped digging and jerked its head toward Mark. Classic. Mark, now petrified, froze in place. barely breathing, even though his heart was racing. Suddenly, it stood straight up on its hind legs. Its huge, shaggy body rose to over 7 feet tall and at least 500 pounds. That's like Andre the Giant huge. It had a hairy canine face, but the body of a muscular man. Then he heard a low growl reverberate from its direction. It reminded him of a dog growl when you get too close to their food while they're eating. He was overwhelmed by the stench of rotten meat. He tried to control his breathing. Mark took a couple of steps back when suddenly the beast quickly stood up on its back legs and bolted into the woods. Mark got into his truck and hastily left the area. Good idea. The next night, Mark bravely returned to the area for his usual security rounds. As he walked through the fields, he saw the beast again, digging in the same mound as yesterday. He gripped his flashlight tightly, ready to defend himself. Once again, it stood up. This time, though, it opened its mouth. Mark saw large fangs hanging down in its mouth. Its lips pulled back in a threatening snarl. It grunted a clearly audible word. Gadara. The air was a little clearer that night, and Mark got a very good look at it. Its face was that of a wolf. Its hands were very human-like, but with a twisted thumb and very long fingernails. After a several minute stare down with the monster, it disappeared into the woods. Mark's got a sack on him. August 1972, just outside of Delavan, Wisconsin. Mary had just finished dinner and was cleaning up. Right as she was rinsing off the last dish, she saw through the kitchen window a large shadow race across the field. At first, she assumed it was someone's dog running loose. She poured a glass of wine and sat down to watch some TV before retiring for the night. About 10 minutes later, she heard someone banging on her front door. That better not be them damn religious people again. Startled, she spilled her wine and quickly jumped to her feet. She asked, "Who's there? What do you want?" No response. Just a continual pounding on her door. It started getting more intense, knocking a few pictures off the wall. Time to lock and load, baby. Thinking it was someone trying to break into her house, she grabbed her .38 pistol from the bedroom. There you go. With a shaky aim at the door, she warned, I'm armed and will shoot if you enter my house." It started ramming her door aggressively. She was nearly in tears. Luckily, her house was a log cabin, and the door was as solid as a rock. Then the pounding stopped. That's usually not good, at least in the movies. She heard a long, deep howl. Completely freaked out, she slouched down onto the floor, whimpering. She heard the monster's nails clack as it ran across the wooden porch. Then she heard it run off into the dark. Thinking it was over, she put the gun down and called the police. As she was talking to the dispatcher, she heard the howl again. This time, it came from the direction of her barn, where her horses were. She screamed into the phone, "Send the police, now!" She dropped the phone and sprinted towards the barn. On her way to the barn, she heard one of her horses yelp in pain. She fearlessly continued toward the barn. When she arrived, one of her horses was moaning in distress. Out of breath, she made it to its stall. Blood splatter dripped down the walls and over the stall door. In a complete panic, she desperately felt for the injury. The horse was extremely spooked and made it very hard for her to find the damage. After calming the big animal down, she noticed on the horse's back there were 3 long gashes. Blood was streaming down from the wounds. She rushed to the tack room and grabbed a couple of towels. On her way back to the stall, she noticed some footprints outside of the stall. They were 12 inches long with 3 claw-like impressions sunk deep into the dirt floor. After some immediate care from a vet, the horse survived. Whew, that's good. Poor horse. October 1989. On Bray Road near Devlin, Wisconsin. Dorstein was driving along Bray Road one evening. She went to change the station on the radio when she felt her car jolt and the front right tire lifted up off the ground, like she ran over something. Thinking it must have been a small animal, she stopped to see what it was. Not me, I'd have kept going. While looking back the way she came, she discovered there was nothing there. As she continued searching, she saw something about 50 feet away, crouched by the side of the road behind the car. It looked like it was eating something. Probably roadkill. Its head looked up, and she saw its glowing red eyes looking at her. She heard a low growl come from the bizarre creature as it stood up. It was huge, at least 7 feet tall, and had the body of a wrestler. She started backing up slowly towards her car. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the monster charged at her in a dead sprint. She screamed and scrambled back to her car. She jumped in and quickly slammed the door. Go, go, go! At that time, the back end of her car dipped sharply, and she heard the bumper scratching against the pavement. She slammed it in drive and punched the gas as hard as she could. At first, the small car just peeled out in place. But after a second or two, it finally got some traction and took off. The beast rolled off the trunk and roared angrily. The monster gave chase. What? It kept up with her for a little while before slowing and disappearing into the darkness. When she got home, she noticed several long, deep scratch marks on the trunk of her car. Needless to say, she needed a drink after that, and an insurance appraiser. November 1989, on Bray Road. Lorraine was driving home from work one evening. She was tired from a long day at work and couldn't wait to get home. Along the way, she noticed something squatting down beside the road. As she approached it, she slowed down to get a better look. What she saw terrified her. She got to about 6 feet from the creature and stopped the car. That'd be a little too fucking close for me. She saw a monstrous beast covered in gray-brown hair. It had large fangs, pointed ears, and a face like a wolf. It had broad shoulders, a thick body, and looked very powerful. It looked up at her with its yellow eyes and snarled. She said, "Nope," and quickly sped away. Yep. When she got home, she told her mom about the encounter. At first, she was skeptical, but eventually she believed her. Her mom contacted Linda Godfrey, a local reporter for a Walworth County weekly newspaper, to investigate it. Linda was initially skeptical, thinking it was probably just a misidentified animal. But after speaking with many witnesses, she came to believe the sincerity of the observers. Linda would publish the story in December of 1991. She got such a tremendous amount of support from the community for her work, she went on to write a very successful book about the monster called The Beast of Bray Road, Tailing Wisconsin's Werewolf. She was so intrigued by the subject, she went on to write 17 books about real-life werewolves. At least something good came out of it. July 1997, Franklin, Wisconsin. Dusty, a teenager, had just moved into a new subdivision in Franklin. His house was the first one built in the subdivision. The remaining area for a long ways was empty lots on what used to be farmland. His backyard had a small creek, or crick if you're from the hills. On the other side of the creek was some brush and a single-lane road with an archaic wooden streetlight that gave off an orange tone for about 30 yards away. It was a warm summer night. Dusty had Tom, one of his friends, come by for a sleepover. They were playing hide and seek in the dark. Dusty went into the sunroom on the back porch to hide. While waiting for Tom to find him, he looked out to the orange streetlight and saw something crouched down on its hands and knees in the bushes. He looked at it closer. Its breaths were so heavy, he could see its chest heaving, even from that distance. He stood up in awe. Dusty has a 140-pound Akita that stands 6 feet tall on its hind legs. He could easily tell whatever this was easily dwarfed his dog. Its hind legs were thick and muscular like a man's, but its body narrowed at the abdomen and had a head like a wolf. Dusty called out to Tom, "Tom, come here and look at this." Tom walked up behind Dusty and whispered, "What the fuck is that?" not wanting to draw its attention. They stood there and watched the beast for 30 minutes. Dusty's dad, a hard-ass Vietnam vet, came out to see what the hell they were doing up so late. Dusty pointed at it and asked his dad what it was. He shakily replied, I don't know. His dad stepped outside the sunroom into the backyard. Dusty protested. Dad, what are you doing? He replied, Stay here. He pulled out one of those mega flashlights that has like 1,000,000 candle watt power and shined it on the monster. It looked up at us and growled. He probably gave it a sunburn with that damn flashlight. Its yellow eyes shined in the powerful light. Then it bolted into the bushes like a sprinter on all fours. His dad heard it splash as it ran through the creek. Seeing this, he then promptly got inside to the safety of the house. June 2021, Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Carl, a quarry worker, and his co-worker entered a job site to get some samples of rocks to investigate the mineral content. After he entered the site and opened the door of his truck, he heard a loud, scream-like howl come from the open field in front of him. He said the sound it made sounded like it was startled, not angry. Carl said the howl was very loud and lasted for at least 20 seconds. A feat no one has the lung capacity for. Unless you're an expert freediver. He looked at his work buddy. What the fuck was that? His buddy replied, I don't know, but it doesn't sound human. He had to park the truck up on the hill due to the tire hazard on the jagged rocks. They went to the edge of the pond to retrieve some samples, but couldn't find any good ones. His co-worker became curious and wanted to investigate the sound. Carl, in a semi-polite way, told him that was about the stupidest idea he'd ever heard and to get back to the truck. What Carl actually said was, Are you fucking stupid? They had to hump it up the hill to get back to the truck. They drove down a service road to a different stockpile of product to get some samples. After parking the truck and picking some samples from the stockpile, a murder of crows up in the trees started going off and signaling a frantic cry relentlessly. Something spooked them. Baka! Carl started scanning the ridge below the crows and saw a figure. At first, he thought it was a log or tree stump, so he kept scanning. When he looked back to where the stump was, it was gone. At that time, he wasn't sure what he saw, so he didn't tell anyone about it. Are you kidding? I would have. The next day, he went to the quarry. All the heavy equipment was operating and making a lot of noise and shaking the ground. This drove all the animals and wildlife back into the woods, away from the area. He hiked up to where he saw the creature. He had his co-worker take a photo of him in the spot where he previously saw the creature. Carl is pretty tall, 6'4", so he used his size for comparison. When Carl looked at the picture, he said that it must have been between 7 and 8 feet tall. That's fucking crazy. Bears are not common in the area, so it wasn't a bear. Let's put it this way. In this neck of the woods, bear sightings make the news. Besides, bears almost never reach 7 feet tall. At least black bears. He said he saw pointed ears, a large head, a thick neck, possibly a mane, but he wasn't sure. It had extremely broad shoulders, at least 1.5 times his size. A dark timber color, like a darkish brown. He was approximately 1,000 feet away when he saw it. He said, "It's crazy to think I saw an upright dog that big. I just have to accept that I saw the Beast of Bray Road." During his investigation, a tree near where he saw it had scratch marks on it, about 11 feet high. The bark was just ripped off clean. It was far above where any deer could reach. In a sand pile in the same pit, he saw bipedal footprints in the sand go halfway up the sand hill and then just vanish. No prints coming back down. Were they washed out? Did it jump down? Who knows? He also put out several game cameras to try to capture the beast. One night, he captured something. For an hour and a half, 2 orbs danced around in front of the camera. It was really strange. It's been said that orbs have a connection to dogmen and Bigfoot and ghosts. Is there a werewolf roaming the woods of southern Wisconsin? Or is it just a gigantic dog that prefers to run on its back legs? Doubtful. These are just a few of the sightings reported by residents of the Elkhorn community. It hasn't killed anybody yet, but it is aggressive and not afraid to confront anybody for any reason. It may only be a matter of time before something unthinkable happens. Just to be safe, be sure to bring in your pets at night. Lock all the doors, and don't go outside if you hear things banging around. Just lay low and keep quiet. It'll go away. Hopefully.